Welcome to this edition of the 3 and 2 What's He Gonna Do podcast. I'm Dan Zielinski of the thirdmanin.com and baseballprospectjournal.com, joined by Colin Cannonberg of statswipe.com. We're back again to talk some Brewers, just baseball in general, as well as the MLB draft. Colin, how are you doing?
Oh, good. What a week. What a week. Busy for sure. Lots of news with the draft and some bad Brewers play. And, there's been a lot going on.
A lot going on, good and bad. Yeah, the draft, obviously a busy time with the draft, and then the Brewers. Heck, they had one game where it looked like a football score against the Miami Marlins of all teams. I saw it and I had to close the app and reopen the app to make sure that was correct because.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. I guess they kind of improved their run differential with that. It was shocking. It was just, that fifth inning or whatever it was, they just bat around, and didn't everybody throughout that game, didn't every player get an RBI?
Yeah, every player.
And I think that's the first time in decades that that's happened.
Yeah, at least since the 90s, I know. What was the final? 16-0, I think, if I remember correctly now. It's been a few days.
Yep. Now, throughout this whole time, I've been seeing on, some of these Brewer fan groups on Facebook, a lot of complaining, a lot of people, we need to get it together, need to fix something. A lot of people giving up on the team, which at the moment, the Brewers are tied for first still with the Cubs. I think a short memory needs to be made here. It was one bad game against the Marlins, and then they lost again last night, but a little overreacting from what I can see.
Well, it was two bad games against the Marlins, I'll say that. Should never lose a series against the Miami Marlins, but the way they lost, too, was not an encouraging sign. 16-0, 8-3, won on Thursday, 5-1. But I can see some of the concern for the Brewers. I just don't think, again, their pitching is quite there. And I think fans are too upset about Keston Hiura being sent down. We can get more into him a little bit later in this podcast about that move. But talking about the team in general, the pitching concerns me, especially some of those bullpen pieces, and just can the starters at least get 6 innings where you're not taxing Josh Hader a lot, and that way he's fresh come August, September, and hopefully in the postseason.
The pitching, Davies has been reliable. I think, everyone can agree on that as of now.
I guess.
Aside from that, though, I think yesterday Jimmy returned, and he didn't look sharp, to say the least. Gave up walked a guy, gave up a double, walked a guy, and gave up a grand slam. But you never know how someone's going to return from that kind of injury. And I think it'll take him weeks to hone into where he was. If he ever can, I guess, even get to that level. But I would assume he will get to that point later in the season where he could be the reliable starter that he was 2 years ago. Maybe not to that extent, but at least he'll be a reliable starter. I think the pitching is, aside from Davies, it's been kind of a crapshoot, but I think every team has their ups and downs like that. But I think Nelson is a big thing here. If he can come back and look healthy, look like his old self, that would be huge.
And Brandon Woodruff's pitched all right this year as well. He's got 80 strikeouts.
Yeah. Woody has solid number 2 potential. He's shown he could almost have ace potential, but I don't think he'll be an ace.
Minus, I guess, really his last start, which was against Pittsburgh on June 1st. He pitched really well for, a good month or so, going back all the way.
Yeah.
But, so that kind of, his ERA is a little skewed because of his struggles early on and then his recent start. But Jimmy Nelson, I'm concerned, I guess, about because he he hasn't pitched in the major league level in over a year now, and I think it's going to take him time to get just adjusted and confidence back, and that's even if he gets even close to where he's at prior to the injury, which I don't think anyone can expect. So I just think I don't know how long you can let him just go out there and get his feel. Is it give him 6 starts and if he's still struggling, throw him on the IL again? I don't know. It's gonna be kind of a interesting to see if he does struggle how the Brewers handle that.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but I think you do kind of just have to throw him out there and hope. That's the only way he's gonna get back to normal, I guess, is if he can pitch in that type of situation.
And with the draft, obviously the Brewers lost their 3rd round pick because of Yasmani Grandal. They also traded away a compensation pick for Alex Claudio, and I still cannot get over whoever thought in their right mind trading a compensation pick, which is like right after the 1st round. So it would have been they would have gotten a good prospect, and that's partly why their signing bonus pool money was the 2nd lowest, is because they traded that pick, which was almost $2 million in signs bonus money. Why they ever traded for Alex Claudio? The guy is terrible. I mean, he throws so slow to begin with, and then like he's just not an effective guy. I mean, early on he was better than what he's been recently. I mean, I just don't know. They need it. They need another power arm in that bullpen, but I don't know if they're willing to invest in trading for a guy like that.
Mhm. Yeah. Coming into the season, I guess I didn't mind Claudio. I guess it was a price to pay, but no draft is guaranteed. And Claudio, coming into this season, I guess if the Brewers look back 2016 through 2018,
Yeah.
he had a 2.79, 2.50, and a 4.48 ERA the past 3 years. And even last year, his FIP was a full run lower than his ERA. So I guess if the Brewers were thinking, okay, we can get a reliever who, on a hopefully good year, can have a high 2 ERA, that would be big.
Yeah.
But that's just not how it turned out this year. He's giving up way more home runs for fly balls than he has previously, and that's the big concern there is he is giving up the long ball.
Yeah, he's given up 5 already, which matches a career high, and he's only 25 2/3 innings into the season for him. Besides, I guess, the pitching, what did you make of the Keston Hiura being sent down move? I know that was a move that upset a lot of Brewer fans.
Yeah, it just seemed hard because of the momentum and just the energy I think that he brought to the team. And he was hitting. He had some big hits against Pittsburgh, sending that game into extras. Without him, that may not have happened. I can see where they may have thought he could have been sent down. His plate discipline was bad, to say the least. Wasn't exactly disciplined at the plate. And I think this is just kind of giving, Shaw has had a couple good years with the Brewers, and this might just be here we go, here's your last chance kind of deal too. So I see the point in sending him down, but I also see, if something he was doing well, and he was doing more at second base than anyone else was doing at the time. So I can see both sides.
I think it came down to his service time clock. I think they sent him down because they wanted to save a few days on that service time, so that way they would get another year of eligibility. Otherwise, I mean, yes, his plate discipline wasn't great, but he still was only maybe 100 bats into his major league career, if that. Probably not even.
Yeah, he had a weighted runs created plus of 123 through his 70 at bats.
70 at
So
bats.
he was an above average hitter.
Yeah.
Just that 4.3% walk rate and 33.3% strikeout rate doesn't usually translate that well long term.
No, and they've got to hit on him. He's got to be an all-star caliber player because of some of the guys they passed on in that draft look like they're going to be superstar type talents. But I think it just came down to service time because I thought the ideal lineup or defense would have been put Travis Shaw at first base, get rid of Eric Thames, probably. Granted, he's still owed probably $3.5 million, but get rid of him and then put Keston at second, Orlando Arcia at shortstop, and Moustakas at third base. I think that's your best infield. Maybe not your best defensive infield because you got two guys playing. Well, Keston's, I guess, a second baseman. He's not very good defensively, but then you also have Shaw playing kind of out of position a little bit too. But it's your best offensive lineup, I think it would have been. So we'll see what they do maybe come another month or so. It probably will all come down to how Travis Shaw and those two guys at first base are doing offensively.
Yeah. One of the struggling people will have to break out of their slump, and I think Counsell is hoping someone breaks out so he can just play someone consistently and that they can produce. But we'll see who that is, and I will for sure be seeing Keston when it matters, in September.
Oh yeah. Are you surprised by Lorenzo Cain's struggles to begin the year?
Not really. I don't know. I was never too high on him coming into the season just because he is kind of older. He's breaking down a little bit, but he is a good hitter. I think he'll come around. I think, eventually he'll come around again. But no, to be honest, I'm not that surprised.
Really? I thought he would be. I mean, I thought last year was obviously kind of one of those, maybe not career years, but he exceeded expectations last year and was right in there in the MVP race. I didn't maybe necessarily expect that. I expected a better batting average, closer something to 285 maybe. But yeah, I think he gets it going. I mean, he's a veteran guy. I think he'll bounce back eventually at some point. I guess talking about one of the teams in the division, the Chicago Cubs signed Craig Kimbrel Wednesday night. Big addition for that bullpen. Do you think that puts them ahead of any team in the NL Central at this point?
Yeah, because Brandon Morrow is starting to rehab as well and could come back. So if Morrow comes back healthy and they have Kimbrough, team's looking kind of dangerous all of a sudden. I mean, well, not all of a sudden, but they're looking like a team that could run away. That's for sure. And I work with a guy who hates Carl Edwards Jr. And he's not the greatest, but I think there's going to be less dependence then on some inconsistent guys like him when you've got Kimbrel and Morrow back.
Yeah. Yeah, Carl Edwards Jr., he's just inconsistent. He has all the talent and pitches to succeed. He's just not consistent. And their lineup is stacked too, and their bench is pretty good too. So yeah, I think they're kind of the team to beat, and I'll be curious to see over the next.
Their starting pitching is, Lester's having a great year. Hendricks is having a great year. Quintana's having a great year. Awesome. Hamels is doing decent, and Darvish.
It's Darvish.
No, I don't even know about Darvish, but their starting pitching staff has looked good ever since that first month.
Yeah, and that's going to be key for them is that pitching staff because, like you said, some of those guys are having kind of surprising years. Quintana especially. He's a guy who's always kind of been overrated. But I don't know, it'll be interesting to see because I think the Brewers and Cardinals both, and I think the Reds are going to compete as long as they can. So I think all three of those teams are going to try to be active at the trade deadline. So
And that Kimbrel deal, 3 years, $43 million. Tell me the Brewers couldn't afford that.
exactly, or pay him, give him 2 years and a little bit more money or something. I
Yeah,
I
it
agree.
just it just seemed like they gave the Cubs Kimbrel.
I think a lot of I mean, I can't believe the Phillies weren't in on that or the Braves at that amount. I was surprised to see that. Granted, I don't think he's gonna be ready until at least another week or two. But I'll be curious to see too where Dallas Keuchel lands because there's a lot of teams that could use a starter right now. The Yankees,
Mm-hmm. It's sounding
yeah,
like the Yankees are the front runner. He's agreed to shave his beard.
yeah, and then the Phillies still need someone. I think the Braves could definitely use a starter. The Cardinals and Brewers definitely could, and the Dodgers, I mean, are just the elite of the class. So maybe someone else in that division if they're trying to push for a wild card. But yeah,
Um, I'm reading this article that says that the Rays offered Kimbrough either a 2-year, $31 million contract with a club option or a 3-year, $39 million deal. So he turned those two down in favor of a 3-year, $43 million with the Cubs.
and that was the Rays.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
The Rays, I think the Rays will be active. There's reports, too, of the Cubs going after Doolittle.
Really?
I mean, if I'm the Brewers, I don't know, trade for Doolittle, and it works for two ways. You get a solid reliever in the back end for the Brewers, but you also block the Cubs from having him as well.
I agree. Would you rather trade for maybe a couple, 2 or 3 relievers, or trade for maybe one reliever and one starter at the deadline?
Probably one reliever and one starter.
Yeah. I see. That's what I would do, but I feel like the Brewers would rather get 2, 3 relievers than a starter and a reliever, just because the way they like to manage that pitching staff. I don't know.
And I still think I wrote about this in January or February that I think Madison Bumgarner could still be a fit with all the prospects the Brewers